What's up, breathing people? Welcome back. Today, I'm joined by my wife, Brittany, and we're talking about how to not be insecure, how to not be jealous, and how to not be possessive in our relationship. So she's curated some questions. I don't know the questions. That makes it fun. And we're just going to get right into it. Let's go.
Question number 1. How can an individual stop being insecure in a relationship?
All right. So insecurity is a personal issue, right?
Yes.
So if you're insecure in a relationship, this has to be a work that you do on yourself. We're going to be like a broken record when we talk about all of these things.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. But so many of the issues in marriage is because people don't want to take personal responsibility for the relationship. They think they just don't want to take personal responsibility for their own life, but it's really, you don't want to take responsibility for this relationship working out. That's why you keep blaming the other person and projecting your insecurities on your partner. So one of the things that we can do to rectify that issue is taking responsibility for our lives and the relationship, that we have to figure out how to fix this. We have to figure out how to grow beyond our insecurities for the relationship. One of the things that you can do to grow past your insecurities is become aware of what they are, which is not easy. It's not easy to become aware of what your insecurities are because there's something that are usually protected by you. Like no one was like, I'm insecure about this. We're not celebratory about our insecurities. We're really private and protective of those things because I think deep down we know that it makes us feel a certain way.
Don't you think that sometimes we are almost lying to ourselves because we don't want to face whatever we're insecure about?
Right.
I find that to be true in my life. I will go around issues or I won't address the issue because it's scary to address.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we're unaware of our insecurities, because we're fearful of addressing them. And we might not even know that we're fearful, but we just have gotten used to being like, oh, I just kind of skirt by that issue and I blame it on somebody else, or I pick something to be the problem instead of me addressing the issue.
Yeah.
How would you...
So can you just state the question again, just so I can keep mulling that over in my mind? And then I want to hear what you want to say.
How can an individual stop being insecure in a relationship?
I got you. Okay. And what were you going to say?
My question adding on to that one is, how can somebody become aware of their insecurities? How can they first catch that they're insecure about something, and then how can they become aware of what it is?
Yeah. One of the ways that you can become aware that you're insecure about something is there's one way where your partner reveals that to you. So your spouse or whoever you're in a relationship with is able to communicate an area that they perceive that insecurity. And how you do this without it becoming a fight, becoming something that you get defensive of, is you initiating the desire for your spouse or your partner to initiate that conversation and point that thing out to you. And so that's a great way, because hopefully if the relationship is semi-safe, then you can have that person point that out, and you're not going to immediately get defensive. You're not going to immediately go to a hurt position.
Yes.
Where you're just now attributing malice on the part of your partner for pointing that thing that is a deep issue, pointing that out to you because you think that they're trying to get one over on you, or they're trying to have some sort of attack vector to win over you in your communication.
That's really good. I think that the way you come at it matters so much, or else you're going to scare that person away and they're not going to be able to look inside themselves and see what the insecurity is. And also, that's how I find my insecurities, is when I get defensive, not because you're pointing something out, but just from something that you've said or somebody has said. And all of a sudden I feel defensive. And I realize, okay, that this isn't their problem. This is my problems. Why am I all of a sudden like ready for a fight or ready to defend myself or ready to make excuses? Why am I all of a sudden up in arms? Because I didn't clarify with them if they have an issue with me. I'm the one that's defensive right now.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to kind of go deeper and be like, why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
And then usually I get to an insecurity, which I don't want to see, but
it's much,
I find it.
It's much easier to accept criticism or critique if you ask for it.
Yeah.
Like if you're the one putting yourself out there to the public, like if we're putting stuff on YouTube and we're saying, tell us what you think. Tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Like that's super important to me, that I know what the audience says. Part of this show is us coming together to answer people's questions. Right now we're curating a lot from the internet, and we're really trying to just pull from conversations that people are having online and taking that into our conversations that we're having on this podcast. But eventually we want to be answering people's questions, which is bringing them into the conversation and saying, please tell us if you think this is correct, if you think this is right. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah.
You're inviting that. And it's so much easier when they say, I think you're dead wrong.
Yeah.
I think this is the answer. And you're like, oh, but I asked for it.
Yes.
So it stings much less if you're going to the person that you're in a relationship with and saying, point this out to me.
And it's going to be freeing when you do ask those questions.
Yeah.
Because what you'll find is a lot of times the person is not attacking you.
Yeah.
Like they were just asking a question or they were just stating something that they noticed.
Yeah.
And they weren't thinking of you in a negative light at all, but you perceived it that way.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden were like, oh, they think this, and this bad thing about me. That's why they made that statement. Or that's why they're asking me this question.
Yeah.
Well, if you feel that way and you're close enough with that person, ask them.
Yeah.
Did you mean this by what you asked? And then they're probably going to say no. And then you can just be like, okay. And then you can still take the time to look into yourself and see, why did I feel that way about that statement or that question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another way to stop or try to work past, I like that more because it's hard to stop something that's just a part of who you are. To work past insecurities in a relationship is do things out of your comfort zone. Do things that are in direct violation of your insecurities.
That's
that
good.
Everything about who you are and your insecurities says, don't do this. Do those things. Put yourself in those scenarios. I love something that I heard from Jordan Peterson. He talks about when he used to work with people that had phobias. What he would do was exposure therapy. So he would expose people to the things that they were afraid of. And what's so interesting about that, that's not the part that I found interesting. It was the fact that he said the people that were exposed to the things they were afraid of didn't become less afraid of the things that they were getting exposed to. They were becoming braver to face the things that they were being exposed to. So their bravery was going up, not their fear wasn't diminishing.
That's true.
And
that is true.
I don't know why, but that really stood out to me, and it really was freeing for me. I don't have any particular phobias, but I have insecurities.
Yeah.
And I have things that I'm afraid to expose to the public, to the outside world. And knowing that I don't have to stop that fear. I don't have to crush that fear. I just need to get brave enough to overcome it. Brave enough to step out there, even though I'm afraid. It's okay. I can see, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, especially with their insecurities, wait for their insecurities to disappear before addressing them.
And then they never do.
And then they never do because you think you need to be perfect or you need to have some sort of victory over these things before you can walk in, security.
Yeah.
And it's not that. You need to expose yourself to the things that are in contradiction to your insecurities so that you can become brave enough to face them more often,
That's really
to
encouraging.
face them in bigger ways that really cut against your insecurities. Start small, and then you'll be able to work towards kind of these bigger ways that you're overcoming your insecurities. So obviously there are two different things there, fear and insecurity, but I think the same principle applies
Yeah.
where it's exposure and it's becoming bigger than your insecurity,
Yeah.
growing past your insecurity.
Because it's probably not going to go away.
No, it's probably not going to go away.
But you can build upon, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I just love what you're saying, that you can build upon your courage or your confidence to say, yes, I'm insecure in this area, but I've worked past it multiple times and I can do it again and I can do it again and I can do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Cool.
Question,
is that good for that one?
I think so.
Okay. Because I don't really have anything else.
We can go back to it if we think we need to add something.
I'll think about it.
Question 2. How can someone stop being jealous in a relationship?
So the main reason that you're jealous is because there is a fear that you are missing out on something. Is that correct? I'm trying to.
You're going to lose something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that could be it. That was my first kind of inclination when we were talking, when you asked the question, was I think there is a fear to lose something that has led to this jealousy. So that needs to be addressed for you to become less jealous of your partner. I think a lot of times when I think of jealousy, I usually think of, especially if it's directly to the person you're in relationship with.
I think that's what the question means.
Okay. So if it's directly to the person that you're in relationship with, you're afraid of their wins. You're afraid of them, of their success in any area of their life. Because we're usually not jealous of people's mistakes. We're usually not jealous of people's failures. We're usually jealous when they succeed or win at some area of their life, because I think our fear is that we will be left behind.
Yeah.
And we will be left following them or in their coattails.
Mm-hmm.
We will be behind in some way that will lessen the closeness maybe in the relationship, will lessen the ability to engage in certain ways with your partner now that they've succeeded and you haven't.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people are afraid too that they're going to be looked as less important now. So if somebody's really succeeding, really moving forward, and you might be afraid that now you're going to look like less than, and they're going to be done with you.
Yeah.
And so there's a jealousy there of wanting them to not succeed or not keep moving forward because you don't want to be left in the dust, like you're saying. But I think it also goes back to being insecure. Yeah. Sometimes your insecurity in who you are makes you uncomfortable with the person you're in a relationship with, their successes as well.
Yeah.
And it's slightly different. They're like those two reasons are, I think, separate, even though they're similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think one way in which you can overcome or get past jealousy in the relationship. What is the question actually? How can someone
stop being jealous?
How in a relationship. Stop being jealous in the relationship is by implementing new habits that cut or are directly opposite of your jealous reactions in the relationship. So implementing ways in which you celebrate your partner or spouse.
Practicing that.
I am rereading the Atomic Habits book by James Clear, and he talks about all the ways, not just that we are implementing new habits and positive habits into our life, but by not being aware of all of our habits, how we are, even if we're not conscious of it, we are promoting bad habits in our life as well by not being aware of it, by not really looking at our lives and studying the ways in which we are habitually doing things.
Yeah.
I'm not doing justice to his writing. He's great. But he talks about, ways in which if we just have the natural response of jealousy towards all of our spouse or partner's wins and successes and all of that, we are forming a habit that when success or wins happen, I am jealous.
Yeah.
So like that's why it's so important that even when you're depressed or even when you are going through something tough in your life, that you try to implement a mindset that's opposite to that thing that's destroying you, not because you want to just live a fake life. It's because you really want to implement the habit that will get you out of that.
Yeah, you're training your mind to do something contrary to what you're doing and you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the first step is, like you were saying, is just being aware that you are jealous.
Yeah.
And why am I jealous? Is it a legitimate reason for me to be jealous? And if it's not a legitimate reason, then put in a habit to the contrary. And practice that. If you practice that enough, it will become more natural and you might actually have your feelings come along with it.
Yeah.
Where you're actually happy for your spouse or your partner or your boyfriend, whoever. And that's going to help them probably love you and appreciate you more, that you're celebrating them and celebrating what they did well.
Yep. Yep.
Do you have anything else to add on that?
No, I think that's good.
I have one more question about that that I don't think you touched on. So someone can be jealous of someone's wins and things like that.
Yeah.
But what if the other thing that I think this question might be asking is the person is jealous of, or at least this is how I interpreted it. They're jealous of the people that their partner or their spouse are in like connections with.
Okay.
And I might be reading that wrong, but when I was reading all the questions people are asking, it was in line with that kind of question. Like they're jealous that their spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend is with other people and they're jealous for their attention and their love and their affection.
I'm glad that you asked that, because that's a huge reason in relationships that people get jealous. They're get jealous of other connections, friendships, coworkers. Who are you talking to on social media? Anything like that. Family members. It doesn't matter. The other connections that you have, your spouse, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend can get jealous of that.
Yeah.
How do you stop that? The only way, so what you're doing when you're jealous of your partner's spouse, we should have defined who we're talking about here, because I'm going through like a list every time.
It just says relationship. I don't know who
you're in relationship with.
You're in relationship with.
Okay, that's an easier way to say it. I'm like, I don't feel like going through that list every time. Every time you get jealous of the person you're in relationship with for their connections, who they're in relationship with outside of your relationship, you are giving, not a voice. What are you giving? You're giving credence to the fact that you don't trust the person you're in relationship with.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Is that where it stems from?
Yeah, oh, yeah, 100%.
So-
It's just trust. And now,
Basically all the time? Like, is that almost always the reason? Trust.
yeah,
There's a lack of trust
yeah,
in
and
that
I think
person.
I think it could stem from different things, but it's always going to lead back to you don't trust them.
Okay, so there could be more stuff behind that, like an insecurity or past things that have happened in your past, but we won't, before going back too far, like we won't go back that far. You're saying it's the trust.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can just focus on the fact that it's just you don't trust that person.
Yeah. Okay.
And what does that do to your relationship? It doesn't encourage the person to become more trustworthy. It encourages them to become more untrustworthy. So like people think, I got my husband or the person I'm in a relationship, whipped because I'm like, give me your phone. And I take their phone and I go through their contacts and I go through their social media and I look at their DMs and what does that speak to your spouse? I know you feel more secure in the fact that one, they gave you their phone. So you're like, there's one win for my trust meter that I'm keeping on them, which you shouldn't do that. Shouldn't keep trust meters on the individual actions of the person you're in relationship with. That's gross.
Yeah.
And that's unhealthy. And that doesn't lead to the person you're in a relationship with becoming more trustworthy. And I mean, what does that feel like if they take your phone? You're like, oh yes, I got their phone.
If you feel very like untrusted, yeah.
Well, and for that person,
for the person who had to give up their phone,
and just the fact that they have to watch you go through their phone is such a I don't know. It's such a
you're not on the same level. That's how I would feel.
Yeah.
It's almost like a parent-child relationship.
Yes.
It's kind
of embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. It would be like a parent-child relationship, or it would be like, you're getting like strip searched.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy. It's not healthy to have that kind of distrust in the person you're in a relationship with, to the point that you need to investigate their lives to confirm that they still love you, to confirm that they're worthy of your trust being given. How are you reciprocating that? Are you demonstrating to them how you're remaining trustworthy?
Yeah.
Usually not. Usually it's one-sided.
It's one-sided.
And that's unhealthy. Anytime there is a one-sided nature in the relationship, you are just demonstrating that this relationship is one-sided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what would you say then? So the first step is somebody identifies that they are being jealous. They want to stop being jealous.
Okay.
What is their next step then? Did you say that? I think we were defining what it could look like.
Yeah.
How do they move past? How do they work through that?
Yeah. Yeah. Just like some of the other things that we've talked about already, you need to do things that promote trust in the relationship. You have to.
Without doing phone checks.
The main way to get over jealousy in the relationship is to stop being jealous. And that sounds stupid simple. I got it. I know. I should provide more practical ways that you overcome this. But the first step is to believe that you trust the person you're in a relationship with.
Yeah.
Once you believe that, or are
decide
to believe that, you will start overcoming jealousy. Because that is in contradiction to what your jealousy is telling you.
Yeah.
Jealousy, my spouse isn't trustworthy. Jealousy, I have to be conscious and investigate all of his connections. Belief that I can trust my spouse eliminates your need for all of these other things.
Yeah.
And so in turn, you become less jealous.
Yeah. I I know for us, thankfully, I'm not a jealous person and I do trust you.
Yeah.
And I would say to somebody who maybe has a tendency to be jealous to make the decision to trust, like you're saying, but then don't be afraid to, on a one-on-one level without like checking their social media or their texts, if they've done something to break your trust, address it.
Right.
Address that issue. Don't try to keep tabs on the person, but address that issue. Whatever it was that you feel they broke your trust, you need to ask them about that.
Right. And I guess that's a main
and take
thing.
it on a one like I want to say one by one basis, but that doesn't make sense. Like each time it happens, take it that way. And
each time what happens?
If your trust is being broken, address it then.
Right. Okay.
But don't try to keep tabs on it. I thought you meant
every time jealousy comes to your mind, let's focus on it.
No.
Yeah, okay. All right. You mean if they're untrustworthy in some way? Yeah, for sure.
Because otherwise, they're kind of building trust every day. They don't break it. In my mind.
And vice versa. You're building trust every day that you're not jealous.
Yes.
So both are factored in there. But if there is some place or some time or some situation that happened that you feel lends itself to why you're now jealous of the person you're in relationship with because they were untrustworthy in this or this. Yeah.
You need to address it.
You need to address it. But that's not an excuse to be jealous of your spouse.
Yeah.
That's just unhealthy. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
Don't be jealous.
Yeah. I think it's helpful to just move forward and take each thing that comes up and just address it with that person like anything else that would come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, number 3. How should people overcome possessiveness in a relationship?
Possessive.
I don't know why I said that weird.
Possessiveness.
Possessiveness?
That's better. Yeah.
Possessiveness.
Potatoes.
Boy, let me mash them, stick them in a stew. Okay. How should people overcome possessiveness in a relationship?
I deserve it. Making fun of you. By changing your mindset that what is my spouse, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend's is mine and what's mine is theirs. That's really, you have to, again, decide on the belief that our possessions are each other's. Just like, in a marriage relationship, our bodies are each other's. Our emotions are each other's. Our finances are each other's.
Yeah.
That continuing to, it depends, I guess, on where you're at relationally. There's a difference between relationships that are marriage relationships and relationships where you're just dating somebody.
Yeah, there's difference.
But the principle still remains that how you become less possessive is by giving. Just like becoming more trusting is how you deal with jealousy, becoming, more secure by exposing yourself to by exposing your insecurities to the world. These are how you always overcome with the opposite.
Yeah.
And so giving helps you overcome possessiveness.
Yes.
And possessiveness is understandable because, especially in a marriage relationship, I do like that person belongs to me and I belong to that person.
Right.
So there's a healthy level of possession there. I know that's a difficult word for people because they're just like, she doesn't possess me. And, vice
Other
versa.
way around, yeah.
Whatever. You made that decision when you got married. Tough. And it's healthy. It's healthy to be possessed by the other person because there is ownership there. There is care there. There is a security in that possession. I care for things that I possess. When I have a new thing that I've bought, I care for that because it's my possession.
Yes.
It's mine. I bought it, belongs to me. I want to take care of it to make sure that it lasts, to make sure that it remains unscuffed up, to remain, to make sure that good things happen from it.
Yeah.
To make sure that when people see that thing that I possess, they go, wow, that's great. It's the same thing in your relationship. You want to be able to care and for people to say, wow, your wife or your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend are just awesome. You're like, yeah, that's my possession.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
That's not weird. Sure, people can make it unhealthy and make a person a slave.
Can
Not what I'm
you
talking
speak
about.
into that? Can you, for people who are watching, what can unhealthy possessiveness look like, especially in a girlfriend boyfriend relationship when you
Well, that's what we're speaking to with. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. That's what we're speaking to, though, with trying to stop being possessive in the relationship, is the unhealthy ways people are possessive. And the main way that I've seen that in relationships, it kind of goes back to the jealousy a little bit, especially in the second question that you had about connections.
Mm-hmm.
Possessive people don't want you to go out with your friends.
Yeah.
They want you to stay with them. And I see that both with women and men. I see it in an unhealthy way with men who really isolate their wife or girlfriend from the world, and that usually is because of abuse happening in the relationship. So they feel the need to isolate to protect themselves from things. Both criminally and just socially, where there might be some, negative appearance.
Yeah.
On the side of the girls that do it to guys, though, there's usually a possessiveness that's unhealthy in the form of probably insecurities.
Yeah.
Where you don't want them to go out, and I've heard this before, where I don't want my husband to go out and embarrass me.
Oh,
Where
wow.
like you possess somebody so much that your insecurities are projected on the person you're in a relationship with, and any action that they do that could promote one of your insecurities embarrasses you and makes you insecure through them.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you're protecting yourself and you're protecting your image through your relationship by them not going out and being silly with their guy friends or,
Interesting.
things of that nature.
Yeah.
So I've seen it in different ways, both sides of the gender
Yeah.
gap. It's not the right term, but
That's good. I never took notice of that. But that's
it
probably
happens.
It happens.
Definitely happens.
And you're saying that for those people who are kind of on the unhealthy side of being possessive, they should, if they notice it and care to change it, hopefully, to make active changes in the way they view
Possession.
the possession of their spouse or those connections that they have with other people. Instead of being afraid of that, or maybe just seeing, why am I so afraid of them going out, or why do I feel insecure about them going out? Addressing that first, and then if it's not a good reason, then decide I'm going to be happy for them when they go with their friends, or I'm going to celebrate whatever it is, so that you can start to make an active change in your mind. Is that what you're saying? Am I understanding you correctly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think being able to discover why is going to be super helpful in determining what your next step is in terms of changing the way you act because of your current understanding of possession. And this is a very funny term, possession, because it's just like, I feel like we're getting into The Exorcist or something.
I know.
But it's a very good term, because there is a possessive nature when it's unhealthy, that you are bringing your spouse into you in such a way that defeats the the way that we are supposed to exist as human beings, which is we are supposed to be together, but separate in our opinions, our values, on our dreams, our hopes. We're supposed to be separate and value each other in our separateness. We're not supposed to be clones. We're not supposed to be, some Instagram relationships that I see where it's just like, oh my gosh, we just have everything in common and we're just, no, that's not fun.
That's not
I'm
real.
not jealous.
That's not real.
I'm not jealous of those relationships.
Yeah.
Because they don't value the separateness that we're supposed to exist in our relationships. So
that's the easy answer. I feel like you just said it. If you can practice valuing the individuality of your partner or the person in your relationship with, you're going to start combating that possessiveness that you feel.
Yeah.
Because you can be like, I value what you think. I value the things you like to do with your friends. And you celebrate who that person is. And that's going to cut against your desire to possess them and control them in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Cool. There we go. That was a very long way to get to that simple answer.
We got there.
4.
Question 4. How to know if someone is manipulating you?
How to know if they're manipulating you.
And can I add what I think is behind this question?
Sure.
As I was looking up these questions? A lot of these questions that have been asked that I was looking at are revolving around like a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or just relationships in general. And I think people want to know, is what I'm experiencing in this relationship manipulation? Am I being manipulated? And I think that's where the heart of the question is, in more of like the boyfriend-girlfriend
context.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the easiest way to know if you're being manipulated is by you becoming more and more and more open and honest with your boyfriend or with your girlfriend in the relationship. Openness and honesty will tell you where there are areas of manipulation. It's like shining a light on something. Most of the time, manipulation is allowed to take place because we are in the dark, because we are remaining for safety, for security, for not wanting to rock the boat, especially if we're early in developing this relationship. We will leave things in the dark in that relationship. But if you can get really good at quickly shining a light, quickly identifying, quickly becoming open about things that maybe you wouldn't in the past have pointed out to the person you're in relationship with. Maybe you wouldn't have asked follow-up questions on certain things. Maybe you wouldn't have done certain actions, but if you think that manipulation may be taking place, it would prove well for you to start shining lights on different areas of that relationship. And you don't have to do it in a jealous, also manipulative, also, insecure way. You can do it in the most secure way where you're just asking questions, follow-up questions. You're asking, you're just wanting to have more information. And more information, there will be a time when the well runs out if you're being manipulated.
Yes.
There will be a time where that person won't be able to answer your questions anymore, or will have to be honest with you.
Or they'll get angry with you.
Or they'll get angry, and that's a telltale sign that you are being manipulated. Is that if that person runs out of information to give to you, they're not able to keep the story going, and they get angry. Which no one should get angry at communication. If anyone has anger in their communication, they are manipulating in some way. In some way.
Because they're trying to fear you into just doing what they want.
Exactly. Anger in itself, whenever I get angry at you in our relationship, in our communication, it is a manipulation tool. I am trying to manipulate you through my anger to get you to be afraid and do what I want. Or listen to what I have to say.
Right.
Or,
right.
It's manipulation. So, yeah, that's a great way to identify. Ask a lot of questions, shine lights on different areas of your relationship. And if anger is presented to you, you know that there is manipulation that exists. Maybe there wasn't purposeful manipulation. Maybe they didn't set out to manipulate you in the relationship. And maybe you can discover that through more questions. But a lot of us do. And just to not be that person that is just downing the other person in the relationship and just expecting or promoting that malice exists in a lot of relationships. Right. Maybe that person really does care for you and they don't know how to communicate properly, or they don't know how to act in a way that gets their desired result without manipulation, because maybe they grew up needing to manipulate their parents or their siblings to get by, to get through, to get what they needed on a daily basis. So now they're bringing that into their dating relationships.
I'm so glad that you said that, because that's true for a lot of people. Even if it's not a severe way of manipulating, I think a lot of us, I know myself, have learned ways to manipulate and didn't realize it till I was in a close enough relationship, like a marriage relationship, to realize, why do I keep coming up with these issues? And it's because I was trying to manipulate you without realizing it. It like took me reading.
We all do it.
It took me reading a book to realize, oh, I'm afraid of certain things that you wanted to do or were doing. And I was afraid of certain things. And so I was trying to manipulate you, and I didn't know it until I read that book.
Yeah.
So I put that out there to say, you could be manipulating, or that person that you love and care about could be trying to manipulate you without being malicious.
Yeah. It exists.
And they don't realize. And you asking those questions and being as open as possible, hopefully will make them aware. And then they can start a better habit too of being more open and honest with you and not manipulating.
Yeah. It exists in every relationship. It's normal too. That's why I'm just trying to give some of the other side, because there's not going to be a relationship where you or the other person don't manipulate each other. We do that in life. We're taught that as kids. How can I manipulate this other kid to give me that toy?
I think the important part is that once you're open and honest, as much as you can be, to see that person's reaction. If they are willing to work through the issue with you and grow in that area, that's a major plus.
Yeah.
Because then you actually are going to grow closer and you're going to get on the same page. And that relationship is going to flourish if you can work through each issue like that, or you can realize when you're manipulating each other. That's higher level communicating and relating.
Yeah. Cool. What else?
Question 5. How to break up with your girlfriend without hurting her. If that's possible.
Yeah. Oh, man.
A lot of people were asking this question.
Yeah, because it's really difficult. And I should not be the one answering this because I didn't do it well with my first girlfriend, and I had it done not well to me with my second. So I can tell you how not to do it. And I guess that could inform how to, better break up with your girlfriend. I would say the best thing that you could do would be to be honest as early as possible. As soon as these feelings that you need to break up come into your mind, you're already communicating that to the other person, because
not to manipulate them.
No, in fact, the opposite. Usually we'll use manipulation in some other communication strategies to make ourselves not feel so guilty when we do break up with them, and that really hurts the person more.
Yeah.
And I did that. So don't do that. I would say if you could be honest about your thought process as early on as possible, one, you might find that the other person is thinking the same thing. So that could be really positive, and then you could get out of that relationship much more quickly than you would if you looked for the opportunity and way to get out of that without
Being
including the other person.
Yeah.
It always pays to just be as honest as possible, because that other person might be already thinking that or already feeling you pulling away in the relationship, and they're kind of getting the vibes, getting the vibes already that you want to break up.
Yeah.
So you just being honest might really help them just have a peace of mind that, like, hey, I really liked you. I wish this could continue, but I could see where this was going. Thank you for being honest with me. Is this fun? Is this what I wanted? No, but at least we're just open and honest and moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Not usually we let it go. We drop it on them suddenly. Suddenness.
A bomb. Drop it and run.
Exactly.
Drop and run.
Suddenness in a breakup is never a good strategy. It's never a good tool to employ when breaking up with someone. So the more time that you can give to the breakup process, the easier and the better it will be. Now, if possessiveness and some of these kind of, clingy nature is there, that's going to make it a little more difficult to break up with that person. And you might have to be a little more firm or more, kind of honest,
Yeah.
as you break up with that person, to get them to understand that you're serious, or to get them to understand that this is really happening.
Yeah.
But the longer you can make that process and the sooner that you can start that process might lead to two things: a better breakup, or you figuring out the things through the conversation that I'm not sure if this is going to work. Honestly, I just feel like we're incompatible on these things. I mean, be honest with everything. I mean, like, you're dating. You're trying to figure out compatibility. So show all the cards on where you think we're not lining up in the relationship, and maybe they'll say, totally get it, bye. Or they'll say, I can see that I haven't been giving enough in these areas that you feel like we're not compatible, or I was too afraid, or I was too insecure to kind of give you what you need or desired in the relationship, and you feel is making us not compatible.
Yeah.
Could you give me a chance to kind of step up in these different areas to see if we could make this work?
Yeah.
Now, if you're gone, if you're out,
if you already decided you're gonna leave,
then go back to the beginning of this answer and be as honest as possible, and try to have a nice long letdown. A nice, you're letting somebody down on a rope, and you want to let them down easy.
Yeah.
You don't want to be quick, sudden, abrupt.
Yeah.
Car crash. That's what you're asking for. So, yeah, that's what I'll say on that. I think
that's good. That's good. It's never easy.
Yeah.
So. The last one, how, and I can help you answer this one, how to be a good girlfriend.
That's an interesting question. All right.
That was asked a lot.
Okay.
But maybe you can speak.
You want my perspective and then you give your perspective?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I think it is valuable to have the man's perspective on what a good girlfriend looks like.
Don't leave me to get all the comments of mansplaining and look at this guy out here telling the girl how to act. And no, I'll give you my perspective on how I perceive a good girlfriend, how I perceive someone that is a good girlfriend, acting, existing in that relationship, communicating. Um, One way that I think a person can be a good girlfriend is by not giving up on her dreams,
Mm.
her life trajectory, the way she presents herself, composes herself, all of those things that she did to get you to take notice of her. As long as those things remain when you're in the relationship and your boyfriend and girlfriend now, that's so attractive and
Mhm.
that's so necessary for you, again, to have that valued separateness in the marriage and in the future of the relationship. So I would just say make sure that you stay steady on whatever life trajectory you were on, so that that person can lean on that growth that you're continuing to experience and that growth that you're continuing to have in every area of your life.
Mhm.
I think that's really important. I'll pass it over to you, and then I can do another
Yeah.
one.
I like that. My first one when I read that question was to know your value. So as the girl, know your value and don't shrink back or try to meld into your boyfriend to make them feel better. And so what I
Okay.
mean by that is don't change who you are.
Yeah.
Know that your thoughts, your opinions, your dreams, your desires, your ambitions are important
Yeah.
and they aren't to be like squashed so that your boyfriend can feel better about himself. I'm not saying that you put down and I'm going to get to that next. I'm
Okay.
not saying you put down your boyfriend, but knowing your value is actually going to help him, I think, because he's going to have to become a better person himself and not just be like pacified in a way.
Yeah.
I hope is that making sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I would just say you hold on to your value, not for them. I don't think they would be pacified by you devaluing yourself in the relationship. Um yeah, and I just
Maybe that's not, yeah, that maybe that's not
I
the right
find
word.
what I'm saying and from what you're saying, don't let yourself go. Don't let yourself go in the relationship. I think that's really important
Yeah.
because you're not done yet. And you won't be done yet if that relationship lasts forever and you get married.
Yeah.
And this thing where like I can be sure you can be more carefree when you're in a relationship. You can let go when you're with your partner. That doesn't mean you should let go in every area of your life because now you found that relationship. I think that's so unhealthy where people just feel like I don't need to work out anymore. I don't need to eat right. I
Mm,
don't need to, clean the house. I don't need to, which you did a lot of those things probably when you were on your own.
right.
But now that you have this other person, like how much are you valuing them by you letting yourself go? Not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Would you want them to let themselves go and be a slob? No.
No, yeah.
So value yourself for the purpose of them. Man, she is still that person
Yeah.
that attracted me in the first place.
And going off like that's good. Going off topic a little bit back to what I was saying about knowing your value. What I mean by that to explain it a little more is that you're staying who you are. Like you're keeping your individuality. I think a lot of times I see girls just kind of say yes to everything that their boyfriend does and wants and is instead of remembering
Who you are.
that who you are. And I don't think that that helps your boyfriend is what I'm saying.
No.
You're who you are and your opinions are going to bring value to that relationship just like hopefully you value his thoughts and opinions and ambitions and all of
Right.
that.
Everybody thinks that they want somebody who subjugates themselves to all of the kind of whims and flows and desires of themselves.
Mhm.
You know, they always think like, oh, if only she could just give me everything I want. If only he could just give me everything I want. You don't want that.
Right, 'cause then it's not a person anymore.
Exactly.
It's just like a
It's
puppet.
boring.
It's boring. It's
really
boring.
There's something adventurous about that person being different than you.
Yes.
The whole opposite attracts is real for the adventure.
Right.
It's real because there's something mysterious. There's something different than yourself. There's something new to learn. There's something new to experience by the difference
Yes.
in that other person. And
Yeah.
that's valuable.
Yeah, that is valuable.
Yeah.
The second thing that I would add to that is to being a good girlfriend is to then support your boyfriend in becoming the best person that he can be.
Yeah.
So knowing your value and knowing your value, don't misunderstand me and being like that he doesn't matter and that you're better than him. That's not what I mean.
No.
So I add that second one to say support him in being the best person that he can be and believe in him to do that.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, I think, really beneficial to a guy to know that their girlfriend has their back and that their girlfriend isn't going to just like be okay with them not trying their best.
Yeah.
Like encourage them to do the right thing and to do the hard things and believe that they can do it. And I think that adds a lot of value knowing that the person that you're intimate with wants what's best for you and believes that you can become that.
Some of the hottest people on the internet relationship wise are ones that are super passionate about the other person.
Yeah.
Like I think of I'm not big on celebrities, so names are not in my brain, but Jim from The Office is literally the only I cannot think of his real name, and I know all of the Office fanatics out there are like, it's Jim Halpert. That's literally all I know. And that's not his real name. That's his office name.
Yeah.
I cannot think, but his relationship with his wife, Emily Blunt, I can remember her name.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Their relationship's so good because every time that they're talking about the other in interviews, it's so positive and it's so supportive and it's so attractive because of that.
Yeah.
It's so attractive to have your spouse doting on you. It's so attractive to have your spouse saying he is the best. The things he's doing right now, the movies he's making, the shows he's doing are so incredible. And when he's on the red carpet interviewing and he's like, my wife is incredible.
Aww.
I can't believe her career is just skyrocketing.
That makes you want to be a better person.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But it also makes you look great.
That's true.
You know, it's not just the fact that you're supportive. It's the fact that you look so secure.
Mm-hmm.
You look so valuable yourself because everyone wants a wife or a husband like that.
Yes.
So there's such value that you add to yourself by being that person that values. It comes back to you. Yeah.
I like that. That's true. I think the only other thing I would add for that, how to be a good girlfriend, is to give your boyfriend grace too. Give him grace. He's going to mess up. You're going to mess up. Remember that you're both human and don't take each other too seriously. Yeah. And I think that is going to help you and him stay humble, which is really important in any relationship. Because if you if any of you struggle with pride, and we all struggle with pride, and you kind of go with that person on that pride journey, like they're just going to become more prideful. And you're going to become more prideful if you think that you can't laugh at yourself. And so that makes a good girlfriend too.
Keep it silly, y'all.
Yep.
Keep it silly. All right. We will see you all in the next podcast. Thank you for joining us today. If you made it this far, you are special. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in the truest way that adds value to your life. Make sure if you are here, subscribe, like this video, share it. That would be super awesome. If you're on iTunes or you're on Apple Podcasts, that's iTunes, Spotify, make sure to subscribe or follow us. Leave a review if you're on iTunes, and we will see you on the next podcast. Leave your comments in the reviews or in the comments on YouTube if you have a question or a topic that you want us to talk about next time, and we will see you then. Love you all. Goodbye.